Nous avons été de nouveau offensés, cette fois par ces maudits Français.
C'est fou, on est dans un monde fou. On nous jette des cocktails Molotov à cause d'un dessin. Et ben voilà ce qu'on va faire. Nous, on va faire un livre de dessin sur Mahomet. On va tout dessiner, toute sa vie.
Victoire! Vive la République française et vive la France!
C'est un pays des droits de l'homme, mais quand il s'agit des musulmans, les musulmans, ils n'ont aucun, d'après ce que je vois, ils n'ont aucun droit.
Their parents came to give them a better life. And at the end of the day, it's not the case. It's a lie. And that's why people are so angry against it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zainab Salbi, and I'll be moderating your panel today. And it's a very hard act to do after Justin Trudeau, but I'll try. A French woman recently told me that we French fought so hard for the values that we believe in: justice, liberty, equality, freedom, and that we are living in a time where we are seeing these values being eroded in front of us. At the heart of this discussion is Islam and French Muslims. And today with me is an amazing panel. All three of us are born and raised into Muslim cultures, and I'm intentional about saying Muslim cultures. Another is Zineb, same name, different pronunciation. Zineb El Rhazoui is a journalist who worked with Charlie Hebdo's magazine and was fortunate enough not to be during the attack. And Samia Hathroubi, who is an activist and a former teacher in the suburbs of Paris, who now dedicate her life to creating dialogue. Zineb, I want to start with you because you were part of the Charlie Hebdo's teams, the cartoons, reminding the audience the cartoons that depicted Prophet Muhammad. And you just were fortunate enough not to be during the attack in that day in your magazine. How did it impact your life, that attack and the killing of your colleagues?
First of all, before answering, because the answer is not easy, let me just tell you how I'm happy to be here with you and very proud to be among all these so inspiring women that I have met in this event. Actually, the Charlie Hebdo attack, unfortunately, when it happened, we thought that we reached the bottom, that nothing worse can happen. But it didn't stop after that. After having killed our colleagues, terrorism continued in France, and even in our lives, most of us received very targeted death threats, and now I live my life with a certain number of gentlemen with me all the time when I go to the supermarket, when I just take my...
Security.
Security guys. This security is given by the French state because I received a huge amount of death threats because I was the only one in Charlie Hebdo speaking Arabic who spoke with the Arabic media in Arabic after the attacks, saying secular speech, supporting my dead colleagues, and of course, when you are supposed to be Muslim, when you are born, when you are born in this culture, but when you are a secular person, you are someone who believes in universal values of freedom, and when you are a free thinker, if you are a man, you are a traitor, but if you are a woman, you are a whore. I'm sorry for that. So that's why I think they have all this hatred against me.
I have a question about Charlie Hebdo's issue, because the attack on Prophet Muhammad, for most Muslims, for most mainstream Muslims, and I would include myself in that belief, that you grow up with the idea that you should not depict the Prophet, not because of the Prophet, because to not divert the worship to a man and keep the attention to God, the divine. So the merit behind not depicting the Prophet, the story behind not depicting the Prophet in cartoons, is not a bad one. It's the midline one. So the question for me is, where is the line between freedom of expression and between respecting certain values that are benign, that are not harmful values of other religions and cultures? Because we do that with other religions and cultures, be it Sikhs, be it Jews, be it other groups of people. So where is the line, in your opinion, between where secularism holds between the freedom of expression and between the respect of values?
Actually, pretending that depicting the prophet is not respecting him, this is completely a fake idea. I studied Islam. I studied as a compulsory in school in Morocco, and then in university in France, I chose to continue studying Islam as a sociologist of religions. And I've been looking everywhere, in the Quran, in the Hadiths, in the Sunnah, for a single sentence saying that the Prophet or anyone else mustn't be depicted. I didn't find. And if even I find such a sentence in Islam, we are a Parisian newspaper. In our editorial line, we say that we are an atheist newspaper, so we are not obliged to respect a religious or a Muslim, Christian, or Jewish rule. And those who say that Charlie Hebdo was obsessed by Islam, this is also completely wrong. After the terrorist attacks, the newspaper Le Monde published that among 324 covers of Charlie Hebdo during the last 10 years before the attacks, only 4 covers were about Islam, and about 19 were about Christianism, and all the rest of the covers were about politics, sport, culture. So Charlie Hebdo was not obsessed with Islam. It's only, as cartoonists, as journalists, when you understand that a cartoon can lead to all this violence, it means that there is a problem. There is a fascism at that specific point. And it is our duty as journalists, as cartoonists, just to break this taboo.
Samia, you were a teacher in the suburbs of Paris, which, for those who don't know, is also known as the ghettos of Paris.
Right.
And then you switched to being an activist, promoting dialogue. In your opinion, as a French born and raised, how much of it, because there are lots of terrorist attacks happened, and they just continue to be bad. And worse and worse and worse. How much of this, what's the understory? How much of this Islam and Muslims in France, and how much of this is a French story?
So allow me to bring back, to come back to what Zainab said. I marched for Charlie Hebdo. I marched in 2015, and I was even leading a march with Jews, imams coming from UK, from Italy and from France. The issue with Charlie Hebdo wasn't in itself drawing the prophet. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Charlie Hebdo, but fair enough. But the issue was they were depicting the Prophet Muhammad as a terrorist. That was the main issue. That was people were complaining.
But still, you can argue you don't express opposition by killing people.
Of course, but this is not what we're saying. We're saying that you need to draw a line between, assimilating Muslim as terrorists and depicting the Prophet. I mean, I'm not a reader of Charlie Hebdo. I don't care. They can draw whatever they want. But by depicting Muslim as terrorists, you were just saying bluntly and promoting the clash of civilization that Islam is inherently violent. And that's the two narratives. And I will come back to what you said. The two stories, when it comes to Islamic extremism, there are two stories and two narratives that are opposed. The first one that Zineb is promoting basically on French TV, and she's mostly in this BFM TV, which is known as Fox News in France. But basically what she's saying is that on a daily basis, when there's a terrorist attack, she's saying Islam is the issue. Just read the Quran. And she's quoting from some verse. I want to ask to Zineb, which I never had the chance to meet in France, I want to ask her, how can the same verse, how can Islam being inherently violent and promote terrorism, and while a few centuries ago, it was one of the most prominent civilizations, how could a same verse could promote Al-Andalus, convivencia, and terrorism? And if you want to draw a parallel between the American example, Martin Luther King used the Bible to promote rights and justice for all. At the same time, some people were using the Bible to promote segregation and were against integration of black in some schools. So from the same words, same verse, same text, you can say whatever you want. It is how you use those words and the context. I can't say, and I really oppose myself to your story saying that Islam is not inherently, in itself, is not violent. This is what you do with it today.
I'll come back to you, Zineb, in a second. But Samia, but there is a lot of attacks. There is the French stadium attack, the cafe, the Nice attack, and these guys are going, and when as they're shooting and as they're killing, they're saying Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
And that's a very Muslim
we say every
expression.
day on the daily basis.
So how do you, I want to understand, from what is the subtext for that? Are they saying we are doing this in our name of religion, or are they saying something else? Are they addressing something? What is the subtext of these attacks?
I'll give you a short example that strikes me, and I really wanted to bring it here to the audience and to a larger audience. Two guys went to join ISIS. They were coming from UK. They were Pakistanis, British Pakistanis, born and raised in UK, second generation. That's very important to know that. And when they were caught in the Turkish border, guess what they have in the luggage? Islam for Dummies. They never get radicalized into Islamic extremism through reading Quran. They get fascinated by jihad. They get fascinated. There's a nihilistic ideology that is under it. And another point which allows me to say so, 30% of people who get radicalized in Denmark, in France, and in Belgium are converted to Islam. They never met...
But what about the 70%?
The 70% are coming from... The 70% come from the second generation. We have no case of third generation of young people from Muslim.
What does that mean?
Which means that they are in rupture, first, with their own family. They're in rupture with the Islam that was... basically maintained by the family. You met some of them. They were coming from very secular family. They weren't even born as Muslim. They were doing more Christmas than Eid. And what you need also, and I think she pretty disagree with me, but what is important to say, I've been living and I've been working in suburbs of Paris. And I said it to you, but I had one of my kids who went to ISIS, right? He died there. And this young guy, Adama, was 21. He was a great guy. He was always polite. And I remember I was really taken aback when I heard about the story. And he was, on a daily basis, facing discrimination, on a daily basis, feeling exclusion. We can talk hundreds of hours about Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not the fear, or is not a way to prevent people from criticizing Islam. Fair enough. You go to watch media in France on a daily basis. They are criticizing Islam. Islamophobia is about people being prevented from schools, from work, and from housing because of being seen as Muslim.
Zineb, I want to come back to you, but I want to see how this tension, the discrepancy between how much of it this is about Islam and how much of it is about French social, economic, political issues. I want to see how politicians are using this discussion. So let's take a look at the rise of Marie Le Pen and what she is saying in this moment in time.
Vous vous opposez aux provocations vestimentaires d'une minorité extrémiste, vous êtes islamophobe. Si vous rappelez que la laïcité exige des religions un devoir de discrétion et de retenue dans la sphère publique, vous êtes islamophobe.
You may say she has a point. What is your opinion about that?
Actually, I totally disagree with that speech, giving us the choice between agreeing with what the terrorists do or saying, oh no, it has nothing to do with Islam. You know, Islam is a religion of peace and love. We should all convert, in fact. And terrorism is the fault of the West. Poverty, unemployment, mental diseases, whatever, but it has nothing to do with Islam. You have that speech on a side. On the other side, you have the people like Marine Le Pen saying, Muslims are a race. It has to do with a geographic part of the world. We have to close the borders. We have to refuse those people. And actually, I consider, but both of them are fascists, are far right wing. Why? Of course, they don't have the same project of society. They definitely don't have the same social project, but they have the same dialectic tools. Both of them, either the far right wing or the Islamists, they see the society divided into communities, and those communities don't have the same rights. The Islamists consider that they must have specific or exceptional rights by the will of Allah. And the far right wing consider that the white, Catholic, and Roman France has more rights because it's the eldest people in the country. They were here before the others. For me, both of them are using the same dialectic, who says that the Muslim is not an individual, he is a community. And this is the problem.
I'm sorry,
for me, you can be born in a Muslim culture.
Who created communities in France? Are Muslims themselves decided to live in the same places? Are Muslims themselves decided to be discriminated against and not being able to move and living in the same place? Do the Muslims decide, did they decide this? No. Who have created the Muslim community?
Actually, you know,
let me ask you a question, because in 2005, before all of this happened, there were riots in France, and the riots happened by mostly people who are from the suburbs.
Exactly.
What are the and then it led to, and then consequently of that, it became attacks and more violent and more violent. Where is the disconnect between, or where is the connection between these riots and what were they about, and between what we're having right now?
In 2005, the people who were rioting in those suburbs, in those banlieues where I was teaching, they weren't rioting to have Islam has Sharia, has a law. They weren't rioting for their rights of being Muslim. They were rioting for their rights to get a job, to be considered by the media, to be considered by the political actors. They were fighting for the rights as any other citizens. And what did the politicians say? They said, no, they are just Muslim, and inherently they are violent. And we changed the paradigm, how we look to them. Not only we didn't look to them as French, but we only scapegoat them as Muslim.
I just want to remind a simple thing. When you hear Samia speaking, you just feel that the terrorism problem is a specific thing to France, and because of the French segregation, let me please don't interrupt me. And because of the French marginalization, we have this terrorism. Actually, I remind that the same ideology is killing people in Syria, in Nigeria with Boko Haram, in Somalia, in many other parts of the world. So we just have to remind that the victims of terrorism are everywhere today in the world.
Let's take a look at another aspect of Islam and France and all of that, which is hijab versus burkini. Let's take a look at, because this is ultimately is Islam going to change our culture or not? Are Muslims oppressing their women or not? Let's take a look at that. Oh, it's not a video, it's a picture. To what extent is this hijab versus bikini? Because a lot of people believe the premise is Muslims suppress their women and oppress them, and they force hijab on them. And where is the line between hijab and bikini? Let's start with you, Zainab.
For me, the burkini is something is a problem with women. I remind that in Islam, men also have clothes rules, vestimentaire rules, you know. For instance, a Muslim man is not allowed to show the part between the top of his belly till his knees. And he cannot wear silk, gold, and silver. But do we see, how to call it, masculinis in the beach? Have we ever heard about people breaking jewelries because they're selling jewels to men? Have you ever heard about Muslim employees of a company protesting because there is silk fibers in their uniform? Never. So it means that even in Islam, when it comes to applying rules and applying them very bellicosely like that, it's always a problem with women. As a feminist, I'm not going to fight for the right to wear the burqa, to wear the niqab in France, okay? Because Muslim French women, I just want to remind that they have more rights in any Muslim country. In no Muslim country, they inherit the same part with men. In no Muslim country, a woman is allowed to marry a non-Muslim. In France, I just finish in 1 minute. In France, the only right that they don't have is to wear the niqab. And I feel more concerned with the thousands, the millions of women forced to wear it in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, than with these.
Samia.
I think you can defend the rights of Saudi women to be dressed as they want, and you can at the same time defend the right of French women to be dressed as they want. How does your freedom... I can't really, I have many opinions on hijab. I'm not myself wearing a hijab, as you have seen. But I mean, you need to let the freedom to people, to women. If you're a feminist, you have to fight for the right of every woman, and also French women, Zainab.
I will consider the hijab as a normal dress the day where no woman in the world will be jailed because of not wearing it.
But some are choosing it. You have to address that some are really choosing the hijab and some are being forced. But there are a lot of people who are choosing it. But this is a very contentious issue. And both of you have merits in your argument and make points in your arguments, actually. Where do we go? I mean, Islam right now is like, this is the sort of the elephant in the room. This is the contentious issue around the world. It's being called as like the biggest problem right now. Where do we go from there? How do we move forward, in your opinion? You have 1 minute each.
Universality. Universality, that's the only word, you know. People, the identities become problems when people have only one identity, but actually all of us are multiple. Before being Muslims, those who we call Muslims in France are also French women, men, children. They are artists, they work, they have other concerns in their lives. So stop being obsessed with this identity and universality.
Samia, is that possible? And what do you do about it?
Of course it's possible. Yeah. And we've been, French media have been talking so much about burqa, about burkini, about hijab, but let's have a look at normal French Muslim and the ordinary Muslim who are trans, who are a tool of diversity in France, who are doing amazingly. I have hundreds of stories of successes, and you need to look beyond the media. Just in exchange with your neighbors. This is what we're doing and I'm promoting. I dedicated my life and stopped teaching to be able to make people and create safe space for people to engage, to get to know the other, because this is the only way. We are on the same boat. It's either we die together or we're gonna live together well.
A lot of people ask, what can we do? What can our audience in here do about this discussion? Because it's impacting us here in America as well. What can one do?
I think we can just have a better understanding of what happens in France. Just read, just not to fall in the trap of those who tell you that Muslims are persecuted. French is a racist society, and at the same time inventing inviting, Arabs to fuck
Samia.
France is a beautiful country
Yeah.
where I want to live and I want my children to live in. But it's also a country that has a lot of challenges. So get to know us, understand better the history of France, and first and foremost, engage with the other.
Thank you. On this note, the conversation continues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.